Once upon a time, there was a girl who longed for a word that she had a limited amount of. That word was experience. And this longing came before the girl had ever traveled across the seas, before she ever had her first kiss, before she ever had her first heartbreak. It came before she faced intense discomfort and loss, and before she knew the true meaning of joy. She would ponder the word for many days and many nights. What did the word mean? Why did she long for it? And many nights, she would stay up writing and inventing tales about the word. One tale was about a dying mother and a wish that she gave her newborn daughter. And that wish was to experience. Experience the intense blueness of an August sky and the sparkling seas. Experience your first love and feel the tingle up your spine as he takes a lock and removes it from your forehead. Experience the moonlight as it reflects in his eyes. Experience a hummingbird sipping nectar from a flower. Experience the humming of his wings as he savors every last drop. Experience the birth of a child. Experience the death of a loved one. Experience poverty. Experience wealth. Experience joy. Experience hate. Experience love, betrayal. Experience life. Experience it all. And come to a conclusion, an understanding of it all, that it was all worth the experience. Later, the girl would realize that she was actually talking to her future self. And later, the girl, now a woman, would find the words that she had written, and she would tuck them into a notebook. And she would take the notebook with her on her travels. And every so often, she would open the book to remind herself what she wished for herself. And as the woman learned more about experience, she began to ponder, why do we choose the words we choose? What gives them power? Why does one word cause feelings of comfort and the same word cause feelings of distress? Why does one word give me hope? Why does one word give them dread? Why do the words I choose have power? Why do I choose the words I choose? Now, I wish I had some more concrete data to give you, but I'm not a philosopher or a scientist or a psychologist. But I am the girl and the woman from the story. And I am a teacher, a poet, an observer, and an explorer. And I will tell you some of the answers that I have found throughout my journeys. And I will share with you some stories as well and encourage you to think your own thoughts. I will share with you how one word can create unlimited opportunities for connection. So before I had the word experience, I had the word hope. Hope was the word that I chose to connect with a friend whose mother was actually ill, hooked up to a ventilator. This was during the pandemic. And I chose this word hope, and I chose a poem by Emily Dickinson because I knew poetry would speak to my friends. Words had connected us before. We were editors at my university newspaper, and this friend also officiated my wedding. So he wrote the vows that my husband and I had exchanged. So words had connected us before. So often we would talk so much about grief and our anger and our frustration. And I also found out that my grandmother was dying from cancer during this process. So we had quite a long exchange of grief. Hope was really what was needed during this hopeless time like the pandemic, where hope was limited. However, unfortunately, his mother passed, but our exchange continued. I had an idea, actually, that I had gotten from a friend who is also a poet and artist, and this was a story about a woman who chose to choose one word, and this word was pour, P-O-U-R, to write a poem or stream of consciousness, whatever came to mind. So I asked my friends, would you like to do this? Perhaps we could exchange poetry or exchange words to help us cope with our grief. And my friend said yes, so for almost 2 months straight, we actually exchanged poems via social media, and we took turns choosing one word as a topic. And it was really surprising because we would get so many different interpretations or so many different poetry forms. And in the meantime, as we were doing this, we were rekindling our friendship, and we were also processing our thoughts. So even though there was an ocean between us, we were still able to maintain connection. Hope is what was needed. Eventually, my grandmother also passed, and I didn't go home for her funeral. However, some of my poems were actually read at her funeral service. So there was, again, more hope, more connection, more pouring of sentiments and emotions. So before I used the word hope, I had actually used the word change. So this came 1 year before the pandemic. All my life had changed. I moved here from the States with my husband. He had accepted a position at the university, and I became an English teacher. And I was 27. Imposter syndrome often ate at me because I was a person who hated her former experiences working in an office. And I had to go and teach business English to some German management. So, however, once I got to know my students, sometimes I would experiment with different kinds of techniques. And one day I decided, okay, why not approach this from a poet's perspective? So I did. I remembered a technique from school called acrostic poetry. And acrostic poetry is where you take a word like this and you write it vertically. And you take a word or a phrase that you associate with each letter going down. So I had my students do this for a chapter called Change. And at first I just wanted them to use it to exchange dialogue and maybe learn a little bit about each other. However, I was very surprised because they really took this task seriously, and they were very silent as their colleagues shared their emotions and even some memories associated with change. So, before I used the word change, well, actually after I used the word change, about a year later, I used the word home. So this time I was actually faced with another challenge. This is when actually I was teaching a Zoom class with a group of students that I have never met before. In fact, some of them didn't even turn their cameras on. All I knew were their voices, their ages. They were from Oman, and I was from Germany. So we had a little bit of some limited opportunities for connection. However, I chose the word home to do this activity with them because home was a universal concept that I thought could be recognizable in every culture. And the students produced 2 poems in groups, and they all spoke lovingly about their family and their friends and how home was a comfort to them. And this really tugged at my heart because it had been 2 years since I had seen my own family. And it was a pandemic, and you can see this exchange created a connection between myself and these students that I had never met before in person. So I'm going to ask all of you, close your eyes for a moment. Close your eyes. Now, what do you think of when you think of the word home? Does the word home cause feelings of comfort or distress? Okay, now open your eyes. So, as I was coming up with this experiment, this talk, I came up with an experiment, actually, and I was explaining the concept of acrostic poetry to some of my family and friends and colleagues. And to explain this concept, I developed an experiment where I used the word happy. I asked a group of people, just some friends and colleagues, what did they associate with the first letter of happy? Okay, H. So I am going to ask all of you to do this as well. So I would like you to close your eyes again and take a moment to think, what word beginning with the letter H do you think of when you think of the word happy? So take a moment. Okay. You can open your eyes. Why did you think of that word? Was it easy? Was it difficult to think of something? So there really is no right or wrong answer for this word or this exercise, happy. I had gotten a variety of responses from family and friends when I asked them. Some of the words were heartfelt and humor, because one person said that heartfelt and humor were 2 qualities that were important to her. Another person said habilitate, because he believed that your feelings were an emotional state that were always fluid, and to habilitate your psyche was to lead to happiness. Some other people that I asked, they chose the word hippo. I had gotten that word twice, and the people that said hippo couldn't really think of why. So you'll see, you don't necessarily have to be a poet to understand how one word can cause an impact, how it can create connection. So you can use one word in your meeting or your workshop or your social gathering to create connection among yourselves. It's up to you to choose what you do with your word. The opportunities are unlimited for this. Now, as you all continue today and continue throughout your life, I hope that you choose words that bring you and others comfort. And I hope that you give and receive words that can cause a sense of community and empowerment. And as you live life, I really hope at the end of it all that you can come to a conclusion and realize that it was all worth the experience. Thank you, everyone. The end.